Okay,
So,
cool.
cool.
I don't know.
All right. Well, hi.
Hi,
Hi.
and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. It
Hey,
is my birthday. Hello, Delita.
Delita. Delita, shall we sing happy birthday to Jen?
Here we go.
Three.
Let's go.
Happy birthday to you.
Me.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
What a voice.
That was my
Thank you
Marilyn
so much.
Monroe attempt.
Oh, now I'm okay. There we go. Muted again. Um, okay. Well, thank you for that. That was very
Yeah,
nice. It is
happy
my
birthday.
birthday. Thank you. Um, Starting off is a really great day. I woke up this morning and the sunset was coming through, or sunrise was coming through the window. And I was just watching it and I was like, oh, another day. But you know what? Honestly, for me, birthdays are truly every day
Oh.
because you wake up and you're like, another day, I'm alive. I made it. I made it to another day. Um,
That bad,
no,
eh?
it's so good. It's like you actually like get to open your eyes and like you know that there's another day ahead of you, which I honestly do feel every single day. So I think it's good. Um, okay, well let's get into this second live.
Yeah, shall we tell people
Um,
what the theme is?
yeah, please go ahead. Share with
Okay,
the
so
people.
today is about seeing people and why they are scared of intimacy.
And
But
maybe give them a little understanding of like where this came from for
okay,
you. Cause yeah,
I'll actually read the post that I wrote
sure.
about it. Oh, okay, so it says, I wrote a few days ago, while I was in the shower, actually, it came up with the first few lines, but it says, I want to see how you are and how you feel about how you are, and see you own what's true and not true about it. There's a reason why I said that.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with me or whatever you believe about yourself. I can't give anyone a better feeling about themselves for them. No one can. I can give you something far better than that diabolical self-preservation defense mechanism that is splitting you off. Dare I say it out loud, killing you from the inside out. In other words, starvation. I have a story to share about that. And what I said in my post was I had the night before I had gone out, and I was like a magnet drawing people in. And I was there with a friend and it was his birthday. Um, and we were sitting at the local restaurant, and next thing we know, we have this guy comes over to our table and just basically invites us in. Well, he invites himself in to our party. He starts he's buying everybody drinks. He's drunk as fuck and starving, absolutely starving for some form of human interaction. So we watch him the night and he goes from one table to the next table to the next table, buying everybody rounds of drinks.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because as the night evolves, he spills his story. And eventually, we have this interaction where he tells me the pains of his life. And he's a very successful guy who works for the pharmaceutical industry. And he was basically just bragging about how wealthy he was. And at one point, he disclosed to me that he was there because the woman of his life had left. He's divorced as well with 2 kids. And I said, why did she leave you? And he says to me, because I told her that she will never leave me. And so she did. And what I put together then was, you really can't buy love, not with success, not with how many nice things you have, not by buying people drinks, by buying their friendship, not by anything that you can give up your life force in order to be present with the things you're doing it for in the first place. Because what came out at the end of the day was he was doing all these things to be able to provide for his family. And at the same time, he wanted to die. So I said to him at the end of the night, you know, your kids, it's really cool that you're leaving this kind of like generational wealth for your kids. But at the end of the day, they don't actually want that. They want you. And his mouth just dropped to the floor, because now he's got to reconcile the amount of time he spent missing out on things while he was grandiosely filling in the void, while keeping what he really wanted at arm's length, which was to be a dad and whatever. And so now he overcompensates without really dealing with what's lying beneath that's causing him to feel that way. So the rest of the post goes, let me just refresh the first line. I can give you something far better than that diabolical self-preservation defense mechanism that is splitting you off, dare I say it out loud, killing you from the inside out. But by letting me see you yourself, see yourself without the fear of what you think I should think about your so-called vulnerable parts, that's a gift you give to yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get to experience that as a byproduct. I believe in myself, not what others believe they want me to be for them because of the way they feel about themselves, intimacy. And so that's pretty much it. It's about how have we done that to ourselves in so many ways, putting off what we really want. And we know what will really make us whole is to really, truly be seen despite our fear.
Yeah.
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 So that's what it was
Stunning.
about.
I actually love hearing you read it. Like I read the post and obviously it's magnificent, but hearing you read it and the energy you put behind the words is muy bien.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Which is why doing us lives, it gives you, you know,
A deeper context.
It gives you context. It gives you the true feeling of the word. It could seem like when I read that or write that for somebody else who's in a very sensitive place, it would be very confronting.
Yes.
But
And isn't that the irony, I think, of this entire post, is that the preconceived notions that people have about others, about people's work, about how they emote in the world, there's a deeper layer of truth that you miss by holding those preconceptions. And as I was sitting this morning thinking about this live, it was like, I've known you for a long time, and we all have our things that we put on the back burner that we kind of shelf for ourselves. But the one thing that I said to you and that we kind of agreed on is that when we come together, there's no real bullshit. And I would almost say that, I mean, I don't know you, I haven't been in your physical space before, but I know how I am. And when a new person is in front of me, or actually any person is in front of me, it's like you're holding nothing about them in that moment.
Yeah.
And that is the truth of being seen, because you're experiencing someone. You're not trying to figure them out or trying to project a certain way, because there's nothing to hold when you're really connecting on an intimate level, which is why I think we've both had the experience of people opening up to us very quick, because there's nothing to hold.
There's nothing to hold on to. And you know, like this is quite a paradox, what you've just said, because it's also why people will jump from one new thing, and before it gets too known, right, the unfolding of the mystery as we go, peeling the layers away to the core of ourselves that, yes, they can open up temporarily, but because it's only a one-time thing, they're not going to get that chance to use it against them. And so it's also a way you could use it to lean into it, and
Yeah.
continue to reveal yourself, or what most in what I'm seeing a lot in the dating world, and even just in other interactions, especially on online dating, is one experience with this person next, one experience with the next person next, one experience with that new person next, and it keeps validating that that need for like constant newness, but
Yeah.
it's not actually really growth. But for
Yeah.
those who can show up in that moment and really value wanting to be interested in another person without that agenda there, that need to feed, the opposite of intimacy, taking in another person and their wholeness is detriment to one's personal development and growth, and holding the tension of doing the personal work.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, as in addition to that, as you say, continue to let go what the person that we knew or getting to know and their mistakes were, by continually being in the new moment of that same person, new moment, new moment, new moment, and
Yeah.
allowing the growth to kind of generate itself that way.
Yeah.
In, you know, long-term friendships and stuff like that. But yeah, there are a couple of snags that people experience, and a lot of the time, if one isn't able to let go of that layer of self-preservation, the kind of like the false identity that we show other people and we want them to see us as,
Yeah.
it becomes really difficult when they keep relapsing into compulsions and a bunch of other things that could, in that projection, as you say, hurt the person that they're trying to be close with.
Yeah.
And then the distrust builds instead of a continuation of the trust, which
Yeah.
becomes tricky for people to navigate.
Well, and I just kind of want to touch on what it means to be whole, because I think a lot of times people misconstrue the idea of being whole and sovereign as like this holier than whatever
Perfect.
is
Picture of
perfection,
perfection.
and it's actually not.
No.
So like, there's this beautiful essence within us that is perfect as it is, and then there's the human side that constantly is self-deprecating that entire experience. But whole and experiencing people as their whole being is experiencing them here and now only.
Yeah.
Only. So it's like whether that person is aware of their stuff or not, you're experiencing the person as a whole in
Mm,
every given second. And then you experience yourself as a whole by
mm,
allowing yourself to have the full experience of that person, which, if you think about a long-term relationship, sometimes there's bliss, sometimes there's I hate you,
mhm,
sometimes I don't even know if I want to be with you. And then there's the moments where you just keep recommitting to that experience. But
mm.
whole is all of it, not just the parts that appear to be perfect,
Yeah.
because that is not reality.
No, that is not reality.
Yeah,
No one can perpetually live up to that idealized, fantasized projection of a person's internalized version of perfection, because they can't actually face their
yeah,
own humanity,
yeah.
which is what it always really comes down to at the end of the day.
And I think that that's what people run from or want to hide, is the imperfection of what might be happening or not happening in their current experience,
Mhm.
and then being really caught up in that versus what is possible in the now experience.
Yeah,
So yeah,
totally. That comes with like
yeah,
holding on to past regrets, past unfulfillments. A lot of the time, depending on how deep a trauma goes, it could be unfinished business with the parental figures.
yeah,
And then that's why a person can become addicted to forecasting fantasies and trying to get people to role play in those
yeah,
dynamics.
yeah,
Yeah, it never works out. It's always going to, like, fantasies and casting people in those roles are always going to disappoint you. And then mistakenly, you're going to use that as feedback to confirm that that is the reality. How ironic.
Yeah, it's ironic. And I think that there is a very distinct difference between knowing. So I think there's always like a baseline of what a person wants in their life, whether it be great love or a really successful business or a really thriving body, or maybe it's even simpler than that. Maybe it's, I just want to have one place that's mine that I can call my home, or, everybody's got varying degrees of wants. That's really not where the issue lies.
Mm,
It's more so that we're trying to pull it into existence through that fantasized power and control
exactly.
through another being versus experiencing things. And this actually comes down to why when people achieve or when they're chasing for achievement, why when that ultimately happens, the baseline desire is not fulfilled
Exactly.
because
Won't
because
be.
it's not you're not enjoying the experience as it is now. And enjoyment doesn't mean this feels great all the time. Enjoyment means, oh man, like there's a bit of a challenge here and that feels uncomfortable and I don't know if I can handle it, but you know what, I kind of want to get up and do it anyways because I have no fucking choice.
Yeah.
None of those things are always feeling good,
Yeah.
but it's like we get stuck in the idea of something versus knowing that that's what we want to create and then having an experience with our physical
Yeah.
reality.
It's
Yeah.
like you gotta n- know the quality of the experience you want to have with holding the vision loose, because you're not the
Yes,
only one
loose.
co-creating it.
Yeah.
There's another person who has their own identity and values there that is separate, individuated from you. Well, if the dynamics are not really codependent.
Yeah.
So, if it's really bad on both sides and both of them are trying to cast each other into some sort of role, then it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's going to create massive conflict
Yeah. I think
everywhere.
yeah, everywhere, especially in romance. I feel like that is at least what I've witnessed has been probably
Absolutely.
the biggest
It it
energetic draw and drain.
Yeah.
Um, because what I noticed, and this is just an observation from being in Europe and Mexico and
Yeah.
then coming back to the Western world, I think for the majority of people, most people are so starving for love and connection that any
Yeah.
singular aspect that provides even an element of that, just the tiniest inflection, it then becomes an opportunity to leech onto because there's such a lack within.
So
There's such a disconnect to the creation of that within, that anything outside that resembles even an iota of what you want, you're like, I gotta
yeah.
have it. And
Yeah.
as you start to lean into your own being truly, like where you are consciously choosing the experience, and we use a lot of romantic examples because it's true. It's like you can
Mm.
have a bunch of guys or women that come into your life that are not anything what you want, but because they give you a text message here or really great sex here or whatever here, you're like willing to take that when they're running from you 90% of the time, and you're feeding off of
Oh
like
my
the
God.
they talk about breadcrumbs because that's what it is. It's like
It is
it's not the
breadcrumbs.
totality of what you want. It's a percentage. And so these conscious awarenesses are the draw and the drag essentially. But
Yeah.
when you come back here and you realize, wait a minute, that person is really not, and like in my physical experience in front of me, and I'm not talking about the
Mm.
seven weeks I spent with this. I'm talking about right now. That person is not actually showing up. They're not communicative. They don't really care about my needs. They're not actually physically here. Wait a
Yeah.
minute. I'm choosing that. I'm choosing that.
Mm.
And when you realize that's not actually what you want, then you begin to unfurl the attachment to it, and you're able to realize that in order for you to actually choose what you want, you have to choose what you want.
You have to choose what you want.
And that comes down to money, that comes down to relationships, that comes down to how
Everything.
you treat your body, how you live your life. All of it is connected. And
Yeah.
so what I realized though is that there's such a disconnect here for most people that when they try to bring it out here, it's more of like a what can I get? What
Yes.
can I achieve here?
Utilitarian.
Versus who am I? Do I love my experience? Do I own all the facets of myself that are maybe struggling or happy or in
Yeah,
chaos or torture? Like, can I really sit with myself and go, wait a minute, how am I contributing as the creator in my experience?
that's the hard part.
To really look at yourself. And so I think that this topic about seeing people, um, we have a knack for seeing people because we've experienced a certain trajectory in our life that allows us to see facets. That doesn't make me special or important or whatever. It's just who I am.
Mm,
But as I started to walk through this path, I started to realize that it was more important to see myself
mm. Yeah, you
so
eventually
that
get,
I could see more. I
yeah.
could see more for myself,
Mm,
not just um, having people see me, but to actually see myself there. And I realized that it took a while for me in my progression as a human being
mm.
to actually get there
Get there.
where I could
Oh, I
and
did
where I,
57 and I'm just like, fuck, okay, cool. This latest lesson was interesting.
yeah,
I chose that.
yeah, yeah, you did. You choose it all. And so like I think that there's a really, I think now more so than ever, when somebody really sees you from a place of love and no attachment. So it's like I don't have to see people and that doesn't mean anything about me.
Mm,
It's not like I'm like, well, I can see you. Like you should. It's not like that. It's more like, dude, you don't have to bring that here.
yeah,
You can, but why?
yeah. What for?
And then the pressure kind of, it subsides within a person first, but
Yeah,
it's like having people who truly have no either way about which way you choose your life, there's an opportunity for you to see yourself there.
yep, yep, yep. I agree with that 100%. To see yourself
Yeah.
there and know that it is your doing. So what do you want
It's
now?
yeah.
What do you want for yourself now? If it's completely up to yourself.
Well, and I also want to loop that back to like coaching and having support. And,
Mm,
I do feel like, and I don't know if you're similar, but growing up, I never really reached out for support. I was very independent. I
yeah,
didn't, and you can do it that way. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. But there was a tremendous sense of isolation in my experience that I created undoubtedly in holding that torch.
I'll
And
give
so sometimes
that.
exactly. It's like I can do it on my own. And it further pushed away the
Yeah.
connection that we so deeply crave
Why?
as human
Because what are you
beings.
doing? You're kind of like, yeah, you're leaning for a positive side out of trying to get yourself from negatively. But the negative part about that is you still only have your own bias confirmation and disconfirmation to measure your
Exactly.
personal growth against. Like,
Exactly.
if you really want to develop and grow, and in fact, step into the arena of like practicing relationships, you have to be in them.
Yeah.
That's what the coaching containers really provide. It's a practice ground of how to show up with people in it or between you and your
And
coach
another person.
therapist.
Yeah.
And then you get to have those moments in a container you can completely trust and continue to recalibrate your sense of testing, but with a new lens, not the one of self-confirmation bias, which is already undermining and overprotecting. It's
Your
undermining your
capacity.
vulnerability and your growth, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
overprotecting your independence. I mean, I grew up as a kid, no mother or father around, very rarely my mother was around, and I had to parent myself.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for me to ask for help. I mean, I put my
Yeah.
back out yesterday
Yeah.
and
Oh
I,
no.
I did
Sorry.
my
Yeah.
lower back.
Oh no.
And my friend Dale came over. We had a dinner date, and she came to my house and thank God she did, because both the restaurants that we wanted to go to were booked out. We didn't make a booking. And so we just ordered takeaways. We came to my place. And eventually she made me lie on the floor and like help me release my sacrum. And it was, she's like, Madeleine, let go.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Let go. I'm like, okay, it feels weird.
It feels weird. But let's talk about that actually, because tension in the body, I think a lot of people think these things are all separate. Your relationships, your energy, your body, your chakras, like there's so many elements that we're bombarded with constantly, but they are all connected. As much as you want to deny that these things are obsolete or relevant, like they're really not. And there's so many unique and individual messages that come from body work specifically, that it's the experience. So like if you think about the body work you had, Madeline, let go. Like that was a message just for you.
Yeah, it was
For
just
me, it was just for you. And the last kind of significant body work experience I had, this woman was showing me pain in my body that I wasn't even aware of.
yep,
Showing me that I was carrying a baseline of comfort in my body
which
that
was
I had never
abnormal.
contested because it was normal for me. And she was able to push into places that I could not anticipate. And I was like, what the fuck
Thriving.
is that? Because I would have considered myself to be quite malleable and quite
Yeah.
comfortable. So it's an amazing how your body can have experiences
Your
that
body's
can
gone
share
compass.
those. Exactly.
So
But
Michelle, who's
yeah,
on here, hey
yeah.
Michelle, she's my friend. She lives in Johannesburg. We've been friends since for like forever. Since yeah,
Hi,
she's
Michelle.
the lady who took me
Hi.
to my I love my what was it, my wedding kitchen tea like a long time ago.
Nice.
She knows a lot about body work as well. She's also into this stuff,
Cool.
so she knows
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about. Hey
Yeah.
Donna. And yeah, we've got a couple of people here. Say hi if you are just joining us. We're talking about intimacy and fear of intimacy and being seen.
Yeah.
And there was something else that I wanted to point out about
Body work.
body work, and with the coaching style that I, have eventually now put together. It's called archetypal conversational trance therapy. And some part of it is like the mind and the body are connected, and whenever the sessions begin, it interchanges a lot between conscious speak, right? Like you and me are consciously
Yeah.
speaking, and
Yeah.
then the unconscious mind comes up through moments. It starts like revealing itself
Yeah.
in ways like storytelling, metaphors, images, and sensations in the body.
Yeah.
And the technique I am using at the moment, the style, is both very archetypal because of how the unconscious mind actually communicates. I mean, there was one woman that I had in a session that was super fascinating, Chinese lady who was living in France. And she is super accomplished hypnotherapist, artist, and she was dealing with something she had, like, after the pandemic, people have regressed. People have, like,
Oh, of course.
emotionally
Yep.
and like all sorts of ways they've regressed. The
Yeah.
stress that the pandemic has released is unparalleled in the last like 70 to 100 years, from some of the things that I'm reading. But this particular woman, with all her accomplishments, was crippled by getting back out there as a
Mm-hmm.
very accomplished woman. And the way she was speaking to me, and the way that she began to speak to me in a way that was comfortable, and this actually happens a lot with most of the people I'm in session with, is
Yeah.
conscious, 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 conscious talk. There's an unconscious moment that comes through, and it will be just a word that I pick up, or a phrase they'll say, or their eyes rolling up, or them beginning to, like, the questions that I ask actually throw back what they're saying at me to help them go back into their unconscious moments.
Hmm.
And then they'll start talking in symbols and metaphors. And then I have to speak back to them. I have to catch what they're saying and develop the metaphor in a way that breaks the belief system that's holding them back. And the way that this particular metaphor presented itself was, she was a chef. We took her cooking and it connected into waste and what happens with that waste, because you do not waste. And she came up with, it feeds things. You don't know what's heaven it's going to. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know what ecological system it's going to feed. So how can that be waste? And then we use this whole chefing metaphor to break through her limitations. And you have to follow along in what she's saying. And eventually what it came down to, the whole arc of the story was about her disappointing her ancestry and how we help break her through that so she could continue being who she is while carrying the torch of her ancestry. It was just phenomenal. So much of the work comes up in body work, and then she would interchange between body feelings and then back to the analogy or the metaphor, then back into the sensation of her body, because you don't have any words to describe the changes going on. Your body's going to tell you. And a lot of the time, even that, like you say, people are not aware of their bodies. They don't pay attention to it. They're stuck here. They're stuck in their conscious mind, which they think is the sum total of who they are.
Everything. Yeah.
And then they cannot move forward. They're not dropping in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is truly the art of being seen, but then also seeing yourself and pulling it together. So like that is partially why we put this whole thing together, is it's like we're not creating a group to supersede someone. We're creating a group because we actually want to have an experience with people who are ready to see themselves. Like, this is not a flex on how much I can see someone's distortions. It's not. I would like to see them see their own distortions, and then it's like this flip switch goes off, and they can then there's this freedom to move into a different space that was there all the time.
You know what, that's important.
Yeah.
Because without that space, you don't know how to recalibrate yourself.
Yeah.
By being seen.
Yeah.
And accepted and loved. And then people getting on board and playing with your weirdness.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that conversation that I have with my clients, they're whack. Yeah.
Of course.
Normal, if you heard the conversation, like sitting at a restaurant across the table from someone, people would, and you overheard the conversation, people would think you're cooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so therapeutic.
Well, and it's what you carry. And I always look at this baseline. You know, you have this baseline understanding of what life is. And so sometimes having somebody see something else is like the cracking point of
like
that.
Having a new template almost.
Exactly.
And always saying, this is all I know. This is this is why I keep reverting to that, because there is nothing new out there that I can imagine. And when you keep, this has happened to me, and I'm speaking from personal experience, you know, as one of those people who be like, I'll figure it out by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like repeating compulsions almost, because like I don't have a map, and I don't have a container, and I don't have the environment to restructure, to recalibrate my nervous system, so that when triggers come up, I can actually be held, right? Instead of turning somebody else into your mother and your father.
Yeah.
You can experience transference and countertransference in an appropriate container, because that is always just reflecting back to you of being heard, being held, being seen. And with the questions and the feedback coming back your way, what's really happening is you're experiencing your distress in a moment, but you're also insourcing. You're insourcing by the question that a parent-like figure would help you to learn how to self-soothe and self-regulate.
Yeah.
Because the parts of us that are really, really stuck, and if you want to read more about that, you can go read the post that I've been writing on my Facebook wall for a little while. I'm writing about this very thing. You can mature those vulnerable parts that are disproportionate to the overprotection side of a person. They are in disproportion. There is no connection, there is no bridge between the overly protected core of a person and the part that is ruining their life, despite the fact that for me and you as independent women was a precociously independent self-preservation mechanism needed in dire moments of survival, because our
Critical survival.
did not have that facilitation
Yep.
to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
So
And as I begin to understand that, though, the beauty of it was that I still get to be exactly who I am.
exactly.
And because of how I consciously choose now towards the things that maybe I haven't yet experienced, then the people, places, and things show up to give me
Yes.
that.
And
And
you cross the
sometimes
bridge all
when
the
you
time.
talk about the map, like that was such a key thing. It's like you don't get to control the map. There are you get to control who you play with and what you do and what you choose to do and what you don't do, but it's like the map itself is being presented to you constantly.
Yeah.
And so a lot of
How to
times,
read
like,
it. Do you know how to read it?
you got to read the map. Can you truly sit in your experience and know that the next step you take is it, is it, is it? And
Love that.
it's funny, you look back, it's like, had I known what I know now then, my life might have been so different. In fact, I know it would have been so different. But also, the
Yeah.
perfection of those experiences brought me here. Whether I want to acknowledge that as being a continuous experience of reality or not, it is my reality as it is today.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's the fascinating thing is that I got to be more of who I am and know that the people who couldn't handle the moreness of me or the full expression of me were people I was used to having in my experience in my past. People who couldn't meet me there, who didn't know how, who couldn't have conversations, who didn't know how to run businesses, who didn't know how to blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I unconsciously kept them there
Right.
because that was a comfortable experience.
Yeah, it was comfortable.
Yeah, that was a
But
comfortable
also,
experience. Yeah.
one of the reasons that I used to do it was, I could change people.
Yeah.
But uh, if they fail to keep meeting you, their motive is exposed. And that's one of the ways in which I could tell that the relationship dynamic was one of utilitarian rather than free choice, because
Yes.
the true choosing is in the continued effort of another person continuously showing up.
Yes.
So it's like, even though we consciously even tell ourselves these things, in the back of our minds, we know. And it starts eating at you.
Well, and it shows up in a magnitude of ways. Like it's, I really hate the whole thing is like your world is a mirror. It's like it can be, it definitely
Always.
can be.
Yeah.
But also it doesn't have to be, especially the more present you are, the mirror can change like that, like in seconds. And I'm not talking about instant gratification, like doing work to get a result. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that precise ability to look at what's in front of you as not just a projection, but also an opportunity. It's an opportunity to have a different experience should you choose.
So you
And
basically
that
walking through the looking glass when you do that.
exactly. So that mirror then becomes a portal.
A portal.
A
Yeah.
portal to something else entirely. So yeah, it's interesting because like as I was making my peace with certain things, I had a real stiff aversion to the coaching industry entirely.
Mm, me too.
Like, I was having a lot of resistance to it. I was like, there was anger and there was a whole myriad of emotions around coaching and people charging for coaching and this is stupid and why is and I had all this, but then I realized the only reason there was any sort of reaction to something was because I wasn't sourcing it here.
Mm,
And so my experiences with coaches or with things or with opportunities to do something outside of myself, it now becomes a, do I want to do this?
yes.
It's not about paying for a coach or not paying for a coach or
And then
buying a book or
necessarily,
doing a chakra training or doing ayahuasca. Like, it doesn't matter what you fucking do. It's just what it matters is this experience and going to bring me, oh, fuck, I can't speak English right now. Is my experience going to bring me closer to me,
yeah, yeah.
or do I think
What am I doing?
someone outside of me?
What are my motives for doing it? Do I want to be saved, or do I
Yeah.
want to have an experience
Do I
and
want to step in?
experience
Yeah.
the growth that comes from that? Hey,
Yeah.
Stephanie, it's been a while. I haven't been on Facebook for a while. Jen, I don't know when last you've been live on Facebook, except for me with me last week Sunday.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm on Facebook a bit, but I have other things going on for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. I love this discussion so much. It's one of, relationships. I never get tired of speaking about growth in relationships, really.
No, I mean, it's something I would say I've dedicated my whole life
Yeah.
to. And this next phase is more about it's not really about fixing
No.
in things. It's really about how connected are you to your experience actually?
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying the experience or the reflection or whatever you want to coin it as, it's like, are you really willing to step into the crevices?
Mm,
And I wrote this in my post the other day, which is like, as the gold in
mm.
the crevice, not the crevice itself.
So basically, it's like not focusing on constant healing. It's just about finding them and having the willingness to, yes, if we need to look at it, we do it. But then you
Yeah.
walk forward in actual practice of it.
Yes, the
Will be
movement of it
right.
towards it, not in to try and
Yeah.
control something into
Control,
experience, but
avoid.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you're moving towards it.
I love that.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Perfect.
I feel like um, the showing up that people speak about is not that you're pushing yourself like incessantly breaking your back to try and get
Hmm.
somewhere, but
Mm,
it's literally in the moments that are tender, can I show up
mm,
still? In the moments where I don't know what's going to happen, can I still show up
mm,
still?
mhm,
Do I still have a choice? Is it over right now? Like, do I still have a capacity here for something
mhm,
different?
mm,
If it's a failed relationship or the perception of a failed relationship, can I make moves towards what I want
mm.
versus making another person responsible for what I want?
Or another person needing to prove themselves so that I can trust them, so that they're not like my ex.
Exactly, in a specific way that
Yes.
suits your model of perfection.
Right.
Um, and so we wrote something in our notes when we talked about putting this together about the practice of theoretically learning versus being in a space to train the autonomy to take it um,
Outside
from
inside.
the outside, sorry, for inside out. And then having the support to do that. So a lot of the things that I've realized and why I love the work that I do
Mm,
is that growing up, I didn't have examples of
yeah.
what connection was or what support was or what love was. And even still, love is such a vast thing. It's not something you can attach it. You
No,
can't attach
it's a
love to
concept. It's
something.
ever evolving.
It's a concept. And
Mm.
unconditional means unconditional, which is the totality of everything, not just the parts that we want to cherry pick.
With the side
Um,
note, I'll add a side note to that. You still have to have certain standards and conditions in order for that growth and unconditional love to actually be
exactly.
held in the space between. two people, many people, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so I realized in the last few months that it wasn't so much that I couldn't see my own shit. I think people are very acutely aware of their faults or their detriments, but the actuality of being able to choose a different path is what people struggle with.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%.
It's not that you can't see it, it's that you literally are doing nothing
Kind of,
with it. Yeah.
yeah, it's for the reasons I mentioned earlier as well, mostly.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one of them being is that living in the fantasy of a world that you've escaped to and use that as your default, right? Like that's how you dissociate and come out of your body. That world is the preference to actually engaging what, like practicing transforming relationships here,
Yeah.
like grounding them down into actual, like materialized physical interactions.
That you don't have to hold or control. Like that is the biggest distinction. It's like anybody can falsify a relationship to a point. And
Yeah,
when you can't falsify it anymore, then it falls apart. That is the reality because you can't fake it. Like
yep.
I think people and you can fake it for a long time, but those people end up so perpetually upset and
Dead
disconnected.
inside. They
They're dead.
basically
And
kill themselves.
yeah, and so it's like this it's like a self-sacrifice for all the things that you want when you never really have the things that you want.
I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because for transformation, there will be a sacrifice too.
Yes. Yes.
You will have to commit to giving up that old default. And you know what? Sometimes it feels like, I think I wrote in one of my posts, it feels like you're betraying the thing that saved you,
Yeah.
and that you actually grieve it. There is
You do.
sometimes a period of grieving, depends on the person, but we grieve that.
Well, and the really beautiful thing about the grievance is you go through a lot of emotions. Like when I started to realize that there were some deeper things that I couldn't see that had actually shaped a lot of my experiences, I was really mad. I was really mad.
Yeah. If
And
you're
I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I'm like, "This has been ruling my experience." But the beautiful thing is in the release of that, like, and these are moments for me now, whereas they used to be giant holdings, but it's like in the moments where you can be like, it was like a motherfucker moment where I was like, "How?" And I'm so angry because I lived so long with this.
yeah, and
And
look at all the things I could have done instead.
yeah, and then there was an immediate, "Okay, okay, well, it's done now."
Mm, that realization has to be more important than, but yeah, look
Yes.
at,
Than the thing itself, yeah. It is because it is the deepest connection to the part of you that can actually create it without effort.
boom.
That is the whole point. It's like, it's not that you don't effort through things. The effort feels hard because it's uncomfortable, not because it's actually hard.
But you know what? At the same time, you are still having to deal with a lot of effort in the in the in the interactions that are not really real. So it's costing
Yes.
you there, but it's
Yeah.
also it's like double costing you.
Yeah.
You're dying at the same time.
Like you're working
Double
double.
dying.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and if you
Well,
allow
and
people to like if you keep choosing the wrong kind of people who actually do leech off of you, just add that on top of the pile too. I'm
because
not
you'll have to
very
go through
happy.
the anger of that as well.
Mhm.
And it's fine, it's all perfect, like, and the thing is you can't really be mad for too long because you chose it. Like, and whether you were knowing or unknowing in those experiences, like, you kinda gotta own it anyways, like, "Oh, I did that. Oh,"
Yeah.
and you're
Repetition is an
mhm.
opportunity to see yourself.
Yeah, exactly, and then you can put it down. You're like, "Okay, experience over. I don't want that one again. We're going to go this way. But it is a process to get there. Not always, not with everything, but for some things, the deeper desires, generally it's a little bit of a process.
The closer you come to the core, the more it fights sometimes. But if you've done like a significant amount of work and you're used to actually practicing like the art of letting go or the art of coming together, it gets more easier, and then you can actually focus on creation a lot more. Your clarity becomes more, you start feeling life, you start getting excited about things again.
There's a stability that's unshakable.
There's a stability
even in even in moments of turmoil, and that's not to say all things, but you will have a level of stability that it's like you can deal with what's happening here.
And when things get bad,
create
you trust yourself
simultaneously.
enough to get through it.
Exactly.
Instead of like being completely taken out. Completely taken out. That seems pretty complete to me.
Me too. Immediately. That was like, so complete. So, I mean, this is another taste of pieces, the project we're putting together. And we're going to have more Facebook Lives because I think this is a great way for you guys to get to know us as people. I know for me specifically, my writing portrays a context that people perceive in their own ways.
Right?
So
Like,
do my
you're so
photos.
beautiful.
I'm like, that's not even me, but thank you. But it's funny to see the different layers. And so it's really just about putting more of the experience out there. So we're still going to post about pieces and the offer that we have going, but we kind of sat down a little bit and we were having a discussion about what pieces really is and the type of woman or person that it's for. Because of where we're at in our experience, there's this whole idea about being bold and refining the experience. It's not so much that there's an overhaul of things as it is about honing. Honing is a big word that keeps coming up for me. It's just like pulling it together. Like instead of living in the fragmented experience, really just pulling it. And it does sometimes for some people in wherever you're at specifically can feel like those steps are bold or challenging or daring, but that is actually the experience, and the experience we want to create is a place where you actually do that. And then we had a little bit of a conversation about what it means to be a true alpha femme. Alpha femme, like a female alpha. Because there's everybody hates it so much. The alpha female, what is that? What isn't it?
I don't actually use those terms very much myself.
I know, I don't either, but like there is so much going on around women specifically who are coming into a deeper intimacy with themselves as being seen as alpha or super independent or feminist. All of these words are supercharged with these triggering things in whatever context you perceive them to be. But what I realized is it's not just women. Alpha is not singular to a specific gender. And when I started to understand that the deeper somebody knows themselves and the deeper ways that they move in knowing those nuances of themselves, they're going to come across as being dominant.
And it's
not
that
a projection. It's not a projection. It's the experience of, I know who I am. And I continue to reinvent that and dig into deeper places and into the places people want to run from. And this is not about overtaking a gender or a partner or
anti-force.
or pretending like you've got some boss babe, whatever thing going on. It's literally about that command of your presence and allowing that to also be the most beautiful thing in the world to someone else.
Absolutely. You know how I feel about force and control.
Yeah. You love it. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. So it's funny. So we're really just looking for people who are wanting to deepen in their own experience.
Deepen in their own experience, are bold enough to know the value of something like this and want to, just if it's a yes, it's a yes.
Yeah.
And to really have this kind of community where it's not something that's like cult like, but it's all advocating for your own individuation, your deeper expression and bolder moves, like you say.
Yeah.
And you know, if I come to think about myself and the challenges that I've set up for myself, it was all in favor to actually grow myself, not because I needed to prove something to find worth and value and, you know, to counter my insecurities or my shortcomings. It
Yeah.
was really genuinely, and people have watched me do this, it was really and genuinely just for growing my own capacity because I cared for myself in that way.
Yeah.
And I've done marvelous, great things. And I know you have as well.
Yeah.
And who knows what's to come, because I like pushing that edge.
Well, and I think that that's another important thing to touch on. It's like this is a forever moving experience until you die. And even then, beyond that, who knows what
Yeah.
happens? Like, very few
Get out of your
people
way.
have insight into that. Do you go into another world right away? You don't really even know. But as it stands right now, this is where you are.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So it's moving into other experiences instead of constantly seeking for the answer that will finally be the answer.
Yeah. And with that true sense of intimacy, it's not really it is about the destination because you want the things, but at the end of the day, those tangible things, if you were to get them in that way, are never going to feel
Satisfy you.
satisfying.
No.
So it's like, how do you enjoy the experience as it is now, where you might be having those fights with yourself alongside with creation until this starts to shift a little, and then it's like really moving into creation, so that every step of the experience, every moment of your experience collectively then breeds the wealth of your life, not just
Yeah.
when you get it. It's
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's now.
Are there any questions? People in the comments are pretty quiet. If you have any, drop them below. Jen, do you want to talk about the masterclass that we're going to be doing?
Yes. So this is our second live now for pieces. And we thought it would be kind of fun for people to have a live experience about what maybe one of our group experiences might look like. And well, traditionally, masterclasses that I've experienced or been in or led myself have always been private. So they've been in a very specific container, like a Facebook group, or in promotion for something else. But it's always like this, people like to call it a safe space, where it's like it's open but it's encapsulated.
Yeah.
And the whole point here is that we're being seen is about being transparent, and you don't have to share everything. That's not the point. Like, it doesn't need to be publicized or put on social media to be relevant. A lot of the deepest moments that I have are not publicized on my social experience, but sometimes it's nice to have an experience with other people who are in these places, and to then also witness them when you're not a part of that experience, to have an experience if that speaks
Yeah.
to you. So we thought it would be fun to actually do a masterclass live on Facebook, maybe for our next call, if we do one next
Oh
week.
yeah, I used to do live coaching a little bit. I'd give people 10-minute slots.
Yeah, exactly. But
I'd
we
go
want to
on
run a
thing.
masterclass, and
Yeah,
like,
that's class.
maybe if there's a few of you, then you have a live experience. And I think the nice thing is, like, there's a little bit of pressure that comes off because you're not alone. Like, everybody's signing up for this. So if you have 5 or 6 people, everybody's going to be in a hot seat at some point.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be fun to have some transparency about what it's like to actually work with Madeline and I, and then to also witness other people. Because I have always found, sorry, go ahead. Looks like you
Oh,
want to
I
say
was
something.
like, you want to do it live on Facebook so that anyone?
I do. So
Whoa, that is bold.
bold. So it's like the participants of the masterclass get time with us,
Yeah.
and then we broadcast that.
Okay. Whoa,
Which,
that is bold.
yeah.
That is bold, Jen.
But is it? I mean, is it?
I know. Tell us how you feel in the comments. I want to see what
Yeah,
people
I mean, would
have to
you
say.
guys sign up for that? I feel like, I don't know, those dirty little secrets we hold, and they don't have to be dirty, they could be anything. But it's like, if I use doing video as an example, there was a time that I would run from doing lives and everything like the bloody plague because it was such a discomfort for me. I mean, I knew I could do it, but it was like, I'm better at writing and I like to take pictures and I like to make videos. Do I really need to do videos? So me not wanting to do video, that's my dirty little secret. But
Michelle says I'm not that open.
oh, well, that's okay. It might be interesting though.
It could be.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I would recommend doing it like open in front of a, like not in like a closed container, say in a Facebook group that they already belong to, but maybe
Sure.
just on a
Yeah.
Zoom call where all the participants who have signed up for it, that's
Sure.
not aired on Facebook. I don't know how people would feel about that idea.
Here's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Here's the creative aspect. And so you're experiencing this live too.
Yeah.
Let's commit to creating our Pieces Facebook group, and we invite the people that come to the masterclass in there.
Right.
And when we have everybody on the Facebook Zoom for that specific masterclass, we then have a consensual experience of broadcasting it live.
That I think would be cool.
Okay, let's do that.
And a little bit of negotiation.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of, are we going to be ballsy today or are we going to keep it simple? So like, I think that, again, this is an example of things happening on the fly, which I love. I actually love it because creation is about building a relationship to the thing that we're wanting to play with. And when you're playing with other people, you have to create something that both people are behind.
Yes.
It's the best. So yeah, I actually really love that idea. We will give the participants an option and we will go from there.
Yeah. So like recapping that, I would say, okay, we're creating a Facebook group, I guess.
We're doing it.
For Pieces.
We're doing it for Pieces. Yeah.
And then what we'll do is, I keep it. Oh, this is an idea. Now this is
okay. Here we go. I love this.
Here we go. Next one.
Keep going. Is it?
Let's make the Facebook group free for now.
Okay.
And then we can have this live experience in there. Yeah. Anyone can join. And when we actually do launch date, we kick the people who do not want to continue the experience out.
Yep.
And then we just make that group a private group. So
beautiful.
What do you think about that?
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So cool. This masterclass
will be in there.
We'll be in there. We'll post details on it if you want to be a part of it. So again, it will be live in the group, and then we will discuss as a group whether we want to consent to something bolder.
Ooh.
And we'll leave it there.
Okay, cool. Brilliant.
Okay, great.
Alrighty.
As usual, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy birthday. Go enjoy your birthday. Are you going to eat cake today?
I'm going to eat cake. I'm going to do fun things. I have some dinners planned tonight. Dinners as in plural, which is fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so thank you.
Enjoy, darling. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.